All right, welcome. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. We're excited about this webinar. We're talking about Alex, the personal development chatbot. Let's just start with some introductions. I'm Vince Hahn. I'm the CEO and founder of Mobile Coach. If we're not yet connected on LinkedIn, there's a QR code. We'd love to connect with you. You can also just search my name under Vince Hahn. Emma, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Emma Mason. I'm a senior chatbot designer here at Mobile Coach. I've been here for just over 7 years now, and I also have a QR code here if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. I'm thankful for Emma for joining me for this webinar. She's actually the builder behind Alex, and so we're excited to share some of the experiences that we've had and how we built Alex. So let's get started. First of all, why Alex? Well, not the name. It's just a name that we came up with. But why come up with a personal chatbot, a personal development coach chatbot? Well, we at Mobile Coach, we've been around, this is our 11th year of doing chatbots, and we've been asked about this use case almost from day one, from individuals, from organizations, from sales teams. Can a chatbot be a coach? And so we've tried in years past and have had some pretty compelling use cases. I think a lot of the chatbots in the past, the success really depends a lot on context, on the audience, and the purpose of the goal of the coach. With the proliferation of more meaningful AI engines, it really allowed us to explore more deeply what a chatbot that can serve as a coach do. So that's why really we've been asked a lot about it over the years, and because we've been asked a lot about it over the years, it's on people's minds. I think people see the value in coaching, and I think it's interesting to just think about, can an automated AI chatbot be an effective coach? So that's why we did this. We started working on it probably 6 weeks ago, something like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about our whole process and share some things that we've learned. But I approached Emma about creating Alex, again, I think probably 6 weeks ago or so. Emma, what were your first thoughts when I suggested we try something like this?
My first impression was I was very excited to dig in. A lot of my LLM use is very transactional, and so I was very interested to see what I could build to perform kind of like a more human task of like evaluating a goal, breaking down that goal, providing coaching, et cetera, stuff like that. So I was very excited.
Awesome. Yeah. And Emma used the term LLM. I think most of you probably know what an LLM is, but it's an acronym standing for a large language model. Most notably, OpenAI's ChatGPT, but there are many LLMs now that have come about, and it's a model. It's really the technical term for what you can think of as an AI engine. And so we've been doing a lot of work with LLMs this year. So thank you. Yes, and Zara, we are recording this, and we'll send a link to the recording to all that have registered for the webinar, so no problem. Thanks for joining, even though you have to leave halfway through. So I do want to just make mention of a pretty important distinction that we make at Mobile Coach. We've been working on chatbots, as I mentioned, for about 11 years. And I think it's a really important distinction to understand chatbot types. So on one hand, you have the most common type of chatbot to consumers, which is a query-based chatbot, where the chatbot, just think of like ChatGPT. It is waiting there for a user to initiate an interaction. And that initiation is typically a query or a question or a request. Before an LLM, a query base was still, the attributes behind a query-based chatbot were it's passive, meaning it's waiting for the user to initiate an interaction. And it's transactional, meaning after the user makes their request and their request is fulfilled or maybe failed, the user experience typically is finished. When AI came about and ChatGPT launched, all of a sudden, people had a much more in-depth and eye-opening experience with query-based chatbots. So all of a sudden, in the past, maybe we'd be disappointed with how a chatbot might answer our query. In many, many cases, when people started interacting with ChatGPT and now Bing and Bard and all these others, we are oftentimes not only satisfied, but astounded at the intelligence of the query-based method. So that's one chatbot type. Another chatbot type is rules-based, and I try to articulate this through these very simple examples on screen. So on the left-hand side, in green here, the user's initiating, hey, how do I start a difficult conversation? And then the chatbot can now engage me in this transactional interaction. Where on the right-hand side, you can see this is very different, where the chatbot actually initiates the initial interaction. Hi, Mia, it's Friday afternoon. Have you finished your certification? So at some point, a rule is created to say, hey, this chatbot has a specific purpose. So on the left-hand side, a query base is like, hey, ask me anything. On the right-hand side, someone has set up rules to give this chatbot a specific purpose. And so in this case, it's following up on a training journey or maybe compliance training or something implied in this interaction. Have you finished your certification? So the rule has been, hey, we want to follow up with Mia. She's on some sort of, we want to hold her accountable to some sort of defined journey, and we want to send a question to see if she's on track. And so that, there's a difference between AI query-based and rules-based. And I threw some icons on here. This is a Slack icon for those of you familiar with Slack. Many of you might be familiar with Microsoft Teams, SMS. This is a WhatsApp icon. So a lot of times rules-based chatbots are on messaging platforms. So for example, if I was interacting with ChatGPT, I'm going to the ChatGPT website, or perhaps I have the app on my phone. What ChatGPT is not going to do is text me this message over here. This can really only happen on a messaging platform, right? So like on Teams or an SMS. So if the chatbot knows my phone number, it can send me an SMS proactively and send me this message. And so that's also an important part of a rules-based sensibility. So I just wanted to take a little bit of detour before we got into the details of Alex, just to make that distinction. And it probably doesn't surprise you that as we built Alex is both AI and rules-based. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But hey, let's get on to Alex. So we are going to do a little bit of we have a demo version of Alex, and this demo version is meant to be just give you a taste of right now of how this works. Let me just make a note about this, where if you are interested in experiencing the full-blown 6-month version of Alex, please shoot me an email, vince@mobilecoach.com. We can get you set up. I'm not showing you instructions on how to do this because we're sharing the recording to the world of the webinar, and there are actually costs associated with supporting Alex, especially if you're using it over SMS. We're incurring all the SMS costs, we're incurring the LLM costs. So I'm not trying to be stingy here, just trying to limit the full testers of the Alex chatbot before we unveil Alex to the world as a product. So you can try this via SMS if you've got your phone and you're in the US. I'm sorry, the SMS is only US right now. I noticed someone's from Alberta. It might work for you too, but just note that it's a US phone number. So if you try SMS, there might be some, depending on your carrier, your plan, just note that it's a US number. Or you can try it via web widget. My colleague Marina has put in the link in the chat. If you would just rather watch, I'm going to be doing it here. So if you'd rather just watch, then I'm going to do the demo on my screen. So as I mentioned, that there's a rules-based sensibility and a query-based sensibility. Alex, as a personal development coach, the experience is meant to be on a messaging platform. So it's meant to be via SMS or Teams or WhatsApp or something like that. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use this web widget just so you can see the functionality. And so here it says, hi there, I'm Alex, your personal development coach. Need about 10 minutes to set up. Text ready when you're ready, when you have 10 minutes. So I'm ready right now. This will not take us 10 minutes because we're going to race through this demo. So the first thing that Alex asks me is, what is a meaningful goal that you'd like to accomplish in the next 6 months? We have had a handful of testers on Alex, and I will say that we designed Alex to be a personal development coach. And so there are some, if you're just interested in like testing and trying to make things break, well, you could try. I think we did put in some logic to recognize disingenuous goals. But the purpose of Alex is really, if you've got a meaningful goal, we want to help you achieve it. So I would suggest as you're testing this, put in, be thoughtful, the more thoughtful you are about a goal that's meaningful to you, the more that you'll be able to test to see if Alex can respond and match, match your intent with your goal. So I'm going to put in a goal just for demo purposes today. I'm going to say, I want to write a 50,000 word book in the next 6 months, let's say. Hey, by the way, if you don't mind sharing what you put as your goal in the chat, I think that would be interesting. If it's very personal, of course, don't do so, but it'd be really interesting to see what types of goals you have that you would put into Alex, because I think that's part of the design challenge of Alex, because if we, everyone's different, everyone might have a totally different type of goal. So I would encourage at least some of you to feel brave enough to share what you put in as your goal. So Will put in, hello, Will. Will put in create and update documentation for my work tasks. Thank you for sharing, Will. I know Will, so I'm tempted to tease Will about why aren't you doing that right now? But hopefully get a chuckle out of him. Kelly says, I want to delegate tasks to team members more effectively. Great. Paul says, once I get off the call, I'll start a goal of focusing around soliciting more feedback. I love that one. Amy, I need to design 16 hours of content for a training course. Good luck. These are great. Thank you for sharing your goals, everybody. So my goal that I put in here is to write a 50,000 word book. So I'm just going to walk you through a color commentary of what's happening here. And this will be a little bit of a teaser to what we're going to share. We're actually going to share how we built Alex. But here, if you, and this demo will work after the webinar. So if you don't want to multitask and you want to be more thoughtful about how you answer, feel free to pause and you can either try multitasking or you can continue with Alex afterwards. So the first thing, Alex is evaluating my goal. Your goal to write a 50,000 word book is both meaningful and reasonable. It shows your determination and commitment to completing a substantial writing project. Emma, let me ask you, what would happen if Alex did not think my goal was a very good goal?
Yeah, so it does challenge the user a little bit if it thinks the goal is too big, or if it senses that the user is what I call quote unquote goofing off. It will challenge the user and say, maybe that goal's a little bit too lofty, or hey, we're trying to set like a serious goal here. Let's be serious about it. But especially if it thinks that your goal is too big, it will give you some suggestions for like more reasonable version of that goal.
Yeah, that's and by the way, you can, in this demo version, you can always text restart, the word restart, to start over if you want to test that functionality and put in like a really lofty goal. Like, for example, if you're considering Alex for your organization, you want to kind of sort of see how Alex would respond to different types of goals people in your organization might put in. You can put in restart and just test this logic over and over again if you'd like. But the point I wanted to make was, before we had an AI engine and we had interactions like this, it was very difficult to do that because as you might imagine, it was very difficult to predict from a rules-based sensibility all the potential goals that people might have. So what Emma just articulated is something that's really only made feasible because of AI. Okay, so after this goal, the next thing Alex does is we'll be breaking up your goal into bite-sized weekly milestones and gives me suggestions. So I have 3 suggestions for the goal. It gives me those 3 suggestions. Which one sounds good to you? If you don't like any of them, say none, and I'll come up with more suggestions. I'll just for the purposes of testing, I'll put in none, even though I think those 3 suggestions Alex made were perfectly reasonable. Let's just see if Alex comes up with 3 others. How about these? So here's an example of some functionality where we're really trying to explore and meet the user where they are, right? It's sort of difficult to predict where the user is in terms of their context, their time, their interests, and so to present them with choices is something we're very interested in doing. And we'll talk a little bit about this in lessons learned a little bit later. By and large, the suggestions that Alex have I think are pretty good. So so essentially, just I'm watching the clock a little bit. So you choose a weekly goal. Well, actually, let's choose one now. So we'll say number 2. Number 2 here, set a word count goal, which I think is a good goal, a good weekly milestone to pursue. We'll see what Alex says. Okay, now Alex says, let's choose a day of the week that works best as a weekly due date. So we're going to have Alex work as an accountability partner. So Alex also suggests, how about I check in on Fridays, or would you prefer a different day? One thing we have learned through years of designing chatbots is when you give people choice, it's good to give people like a really easy yes or no, as well as provide people the the customability that they want, customization that they would want. So here I could say very easily, I could say yes to Friday, or if I thought a different day would work. Let me just say, for me, maybe Sundays are going to be best. Sundays are best for me. So, okay, I'll check in with you each day, and then we'll talk about your progress towards your weekly goal on Sunday. So what's going to happen from here? And so I just want to be clear, this demo version is essentially going to end at this point. The real, in the extended live version, you would get daily coaching tips from Alex. And then on your check-in day, Alex will see how you've done with your weekly goal. And so it's really a daily user experience. And we debated internally, we'll talk a little bit more about this when we talk about our design experience, but we debated a little bit about the frequency of the coaching experience. But really, if someone is choosing a meaningful goal, then yeah, I think at least daily interactions to keep this on top of mind seem pretty important. So that's how Alex works, is a daily goal. So hopefully that is interesting to you, just to apply a little bit of a demo. And that's the structure of how Alex works. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the goals and the key features of how we built this. And then we'll actually show you a demonstration of how we actually built Alex. Emma will be doing that for us a little bit later. So the first thing is Alex is both AI-based and rules-based. There are important reasons for that. We want some structure around the rules around, hey, we want this on SMS, or we want this on Microsoft Teams. We want some structure around the purpose of Alex. We want some structure around the reminders and the tips. And so you'll see a little bit of how we balanced the AI sensibility and the rules-based sensibility in a moment. We did design Alex to be a 6-month user experience. So as you saw in the demo, 6 months to accomplish a major goal while focused on bite-sized weekly milestones. And then some of the key goals is to help you stay accountable to your goal, generate relevant ideas, because I think sometimes, especially if we're pursuing a goal that might be a stretch goal, there's both, there's often time gaps, there's skills gaps, and there's knowledge gaps that's the reason we have this goal, because we haven't accomplished them yet. And so we need some help to do that. So generating, I think, relevant ideas was an important aspect of this. And to keep the goal top of mind these are the main purposes of how we designed Alex. Now, there are, I think, a lot of alternate designs to a personal development coach. We're certainly learning a lot through our group of testers, and we're getting feedback, which has been really useful, where some people might have different contexts, or maybe some people want a coach to work on monthly goals versus something as big as something that would take 6 months long. Really interesting my background is in product design, and with product design, you do have to really commit to the features and the purpose of that product at the exclusion of maybe what a different audience would like in a similar product. And so I think part of the exercise we're doing is determining, hey, how broad should this product be, or how focused should it be? And of course, there's give and take. The more broad the product is, then you run the risk of having it not be very impactful to everybody. It sort of gets watered down. And the more narrow of a purpose of the product, then you do exclude people who are maybe looking for something a little bit different. So that tension in product design is something we're certainly going through now. But these, are the primary purposes that we have articulated for Alex right now to help you stay accountable, generate relevant ideas, and keep the goal top of mind. Cheryl, that's a great question. Cheryl asks, are you planning on a voice-based interface? This is a question we're getting a lot more, not only voice-based, but also a virtual virtual avatar-based. So definitely something I wouldn't quite be ready to say it's on our roadmap, but it is something that we do have documentation already in our internal systems. We're exploring how that would work, because it is something that's becoming more and more requested and asked about. But for now, it is all text-based. Okay, so let me keep going here. Great question. Oh, looks like there's a question in the Q&A. Let's see. Zara asks, can Alex be integrated with internal SMS platforms, for example, Workplace? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Would you mind maybe in the chat clarifying the question? Alex can be integrated with internal messaging platforms. Like if your company uses Azure and Microsoft Teams, you can install Alex in your Teams environment, so only your team members have access to your version of Alex. I'm not familiar with what an internal SMS, but SMS is sort of a broad, especially in the United States, it's a carrier-driven messaging platform. But yes, internal message, if you mean internal messaging, absolutely. So Microsoft Teams, Slack, WebEx Teams, yeah, all of those things. Facebook Workplace, these are all platforms that Alex can be integrated into. Thank you for the clarification. All right, so we're going to keep going. We're going to talk a little bit about lessons learned so far. We've had, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 people testing Alex over the last month or so. And so let's go over these lessons learned. The quality of the content can be really good, but it's driven by the quality of the goal. Emma, do you have anything to add about this?
Yeah. Some of it is driven even by how much detail you give the chatbot about your goal. Like in the example that you did, Vince, if you had just said, I want to write a book versus I want to write a 50,000 word book, the quality of the weekly milestones and the tips you would get would be very different, just with that one little piece of extra information that you gave the chatbot. So the quality of the goal and how much detail a user gives does dictate how effective the chatbot can be for them.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we instructed Alex to use this SMART goal acronym? Is that kind of, that's the sort of the virtue of goal evaluation, or the framework of goal evaluation that we taught Alex to do. So hopefully, if your goal isn't sort of check the box around the SMART goal acronym, I think most of you might be familiar with that, then it will, as we mentioned earlier, it will sort of push back and then help you create a better goal. Okay, so the next lesson learned, this might be obvious, but that the automation works, so the whole purpose of when we started a chatbot company 11 years ago is that, organizations and individuals need a method of engagement that rises above the clutter of email or the unknown territory of app push notifications. And so that's a big reason that our mobile coach platform supports about 15 different messaging platforms, because you choose the messaging platform that will be most frictionless for you. And so the whole purpose, again, for a lot of chatbot designs are, hey, we can really leverage the automation. We can, if your organization has 10,000 people and they all have 10,000 different goals, there's no way for a human coach to manage all those people. And so you can really leverage the automation behind AI and behind chatbots to do that. And so far in our testing, you can rely on Alex. Alex will never go to sleep. And by the way, something we didn't highlight, but Alex already speaks multiple languages. And so you can really leverage all that automation to help scale what Alex can do. It's difficult to adjust the experience on the fly. That's one lesson that we've learned from multiple people. Emma, do you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Sure. So an example would be that if you wanted to change the weekly milestone that you're working on, it's difficult to do that if you don't want to get a message every day. If that isn't helpful to you, there currently isn't an option for that. If you want like a different type of coaching or even a different tone of coaching, there's not really a way to adjust that. So those kind of like of the moment, I need something different adjustments are kind of difficult to make right now.
Yeah. So that's Alex is 6 weeks old, 6 weeks old. So that's a big lesson that we're learning on the fly. And then the last one's kind of related to it a little bit, where Alex right now, we haven't done a lot of work intentionally on the personality of Alex. And so if you experience Alex's personality, no offense, Alex, if you're listening, your personality is currently a bit flat. Interestingly, I'm a tester on a couple other similar chatbots that we've had mobile coach customers building around coaching. And one of them in particular, the person that designed the chatbot came up with a bunch of motivational, inspirational messaging and packaging that into nice images. And I tell you, just from an emotional perspective, getting those messages, it does make me feel happier. And then that in turn makes me feel more engaged to the messaging. And yeah, I think there's something to be said for personality, for multimedia, things like that. So Alex currently is just text only and has a bit of a flat personality. And we're finding that can affect engagement levels. Okay, so what we're going to do next, and again, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A, put them in the chat. We are going to show you how we built Alex. And so I'm going to exit my full screen, go over here. And we are lucky enough to have Emma here, and she is the one who designed this. Now, some of you may not be familiar with the mobile coach platform. That's what you're seeing here. This is how we built Alex. If this looks intimidating to you, I don't know, what should they be intimidated by this, Emma?
No, I do agree that it looks intimidating, but what I always tell everyone is, like, I'm an English major and I learned this very easily. It's very doable. Once you like are oriented, everything makes sense.
Thank you for that. So this is not a demonstration of the mobile coach platform, although you'll certainly see some aspects of how it works. We did want to point out how we designed Alex, and the purpose of what we're going to demonstrate for you today and what Emma's going to walk you through is really to help you see from a design perspective how you would build something like Alex. So it's less about logic and technical aspects, more about like, oh, gee, what do I have to think about if I want to design or deploy something like Alex to my organization? So just for a quick orientation, I'm showing you the scripts tab here. And it's named the scripts tab, although this is our primary interface for creating all the rules and the logic behind any of our chatbots. You can see some of these rows don't have any scripts in them because they're actually doing work. They're doing rules-based work. And some of them actually have scripts because the rules within that row is to send this particular message. And so when you saw the demo, or if you tried it out, here's that first message that you received. And it's just something that Emma wrote and put in here. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Emma to walk us through how she built Alex.
Sure. Okay, so like we're seeing here at the top, we do have some rules-based programming. Specifically here, I chose like a rules-based approach versus an LLM integration because we are just waiting for something very specific, something very black and white, whether or not the user has said the word ready. And rules are absolutely great at saying, oh, was that the word ready? And if it is, then move on. And if not, then do something else. So we don't need much analysis there. But as we scroll down, we can see the messages where we're asking the user for their goal, and then we can see the underlying programming that runs once the user has submitted their goal. So this rule that Vince has just opened, we can actually see where we have put in the prompt. Now, this is the little bulk of text that we send off to OpenAI with instructions and context and whatever else in there we might want to give it in order to get it to respond the way that we want it to respond. You can see in this prompt, we have quite a bit of text. We're giving a lot of context. We're like providing some information about what to do, like how to evaluate the user's goal, what to do if it doesn't seem like the user actually sent in a goal, what to do if the user doesn't know, like they want to set a goal, but they don't know what kind of goal they should set, what the response should be. And then some instruction about like how to respond. And then the LLM takes this package and reads it, and then generates its response using its programming. So if we read through here, you can probably see some of the elements of this prompt and how they translate into the responses that you receive from the chatbot if you tested it out and gave it your goal. Often it'll like specifically tell me that my goal is like reasonable, which you can see some language in this prompt about. Yeah. So
yeah, thank you. And I'll jump in, and I think we want to show you another prompt too, but I want to jump in and just highlight a couple of things as well. So you'll notice in this prompt, we have in these brackets an all caps goal. And this is another aspect to highlight behind a rules engine. So if I go to my content tab, we actually have all these custom fields, and we have a custom field called goal. So without getting into too much technicality, just for the sake of time, when Alex asks you what your goal is, we're saving your response in that custom field so that when we're instructing the LLM, we can embed your goal. And so we don't have to create hundreds of rules. We're just creating one rule and passing through your what you said, what each user said as their goal. And that highlights just a part of the value of a rules engine, right? Because if you deploy Alex into your own environment, then you would want to control that environment. You would want all your people to set the goal that they want, and this can scale that way very easily. It also makes me want to highlight just another point. Sometimes we get people asking us, well, why should we use a platform like Mobile Coach versus just going right to ChatGPT? And this is one of the reasons where you can really control the experience and have these custom fields and really have it be articulated and designed for your organization. And you can have it on Microsoft Teams. You can put it on Slack. You can control both the users. You can manage all your users. And then, I don't like to use the word micromanage, but maybe the better term would be control the chatbot to be in line with what's important for your organization. Should we show them daily check-in?
Yes, let's do daily check-in.
All right, let me go down there. See if I can find it. Daily check-in 1GPT, I think is what I'm looking for right there. All right, so what are we looking at here?
So you can see this is a bit of a shorter prompt. Again, we're packaging that user's goal in the brackets, goal there. So we're sending that through. We're giving some instruction about giving me a tip that's very relevant to that goal. But then you can also see this other macro in there, this other all caps in brackets that says tip saver. And we're providing a list of all of the tips that GPT has given us before and just making sure that it knows, like, hey, please read all of these tips and make sure the tip you're giving me today is different so that the experience doesn't become repetitive. One of the things about ChatGPT is that it doesn't necessarily remember your past conversations. And so in this instance, we're just making sure to pass that information and say, please just read these and make your tip different, to make sure that personalization and relevance is as high as possible.
Awesome. So that gives you, thank you, Emma. That gives you, I mean, there's a lot of rules in here to make the whole thing work. By the way, there is a feature within Alex where you could anytime, even though Alex is programmed to send you a daily tip every day and then do a weekly reminder, you can ask Alex questions along the way too. And that's what these FAQs are here down here. So that gives you just a little bit of a sense of how Alex was built. Emma, can I put you on the spot? Like,
Oh, sure.
Can you give us like an estimation of how long this took you to build?
Sure. So I think for version 1, it was probably 3 or 4 hours. We and the team have put in a lot of additional work in the interim as we've kind of like massaged Alex's goals and like tried to really hone in on like what the best user experience is going to be. So I probably would say in total, we've probably put in 15 hours, but the initial setup with an LLM can be quite fast because it really takes a lot of that programming load off of the back to be able to just pass the prompt and say like, okay, you do this and then give it back to me and I can run some rules on it that are like much more effective for us to do rather than ChatGPT.
That's the one thing I love about our platform is that it allows you to iterate a lot. So I didn't want to, I knew kind of what Emma's answer was going to be. So it's definitely a leading question. And I didn't ask the question to say, hey, you know, this is a cheapo product. No, not at all. We're very committed to trying to crack the code and have Alex be really effective. But the best way to do that is through iteration and getting users on there and seeing how they interact. And then, so it was very easy for us to get something up that was really highly functional. And now that we're getting users on it, we're learning so much. And so you can expect some really great things coming. So I want to tell you some things that are coming next, but we do have some questions that I want to maybe between you and me, Emma, we can answer. So in the Q&A, Zara asks, can we take part in testing in the next features of Alex? If you email me, vince@mobilecoach.com, I'd be happy to put you on our test group. Kelly Wilson asks, is Alex's content and data primarily theory-based, rooted in research, or experience-based? Thank you. Emma, do you want to try that one?
Sure. So I think it's kind of half and half. We're definitely drawing on some like theories around goal setting, like we talked about SMART goals before. And then it is also based on our like very extensive experience with users and user behavior and our experience working with our clients who want these kind of professional and personal goal type chatbots and what has worked for them and what hasn't worked for them.
Yeah, awesome, great. And then there's a bunch of questions in the chat I'm just going to hit before we go to our what's coming next slide. Is multimodal on the roadmap? So, you know, yes, it is. Right now, Alex is, I'm going to just do a little bit of, I'm going to answer your question in a little bit of a long way. Right now, Alex is being functioned against a premium OpenAI account. Mobile Coach is built to be this rules engine where you plug in the third-party systems of your choice. So, for example, we support 15 different messaging channels like Microsoft Teams and Slack and SMS and WhatsApp and whatnot. That's part of our roadmap is, you know, if a company doesn't use Slack, and use Microsoft Teams, we want to give it that option, of course, and not dictate that you have to do it in Slack or on some mobile coach app. Similarly, organizations will have LLMs of their choice, so if an LLM has an API, you can interact with the LLM. It is on our roadmap to provide a mobile coach instance of an LLM, because there are some organizations who are hesitant to go to some public LLM. And so the long answer to your question is whatever LLM that you are integrating with needs to support multimodal if you want to use multimodal. So we would run into a little bit of a design challenge if we support multimodal based on a certain LLM that we've chosen for Alex, but then maybe an organization doesn't like that LLM and wants to use a different one that perhaps doesn't support multimodal yet. So there's some, so it didn't support multimodal out of the box, but certainly as we grow and there's some really fascinating things happening. We're very anxious to get our hands on to the new Gemini API, which hopefully will be made available to us later this month. And as we learn about these options that these LLM engines are giving us, we'll certainly try to leverage them as they make sense to the use case for Alex. We work on dozens and dozens of chatbots, and so some API elements might be better suited than others. So anyway, so that's one way to answer that question. For the Summit folks on the call, it can be available in Canada today already. Just shoot us a note and we can get you set up in Canada. Amy asks, if a company decides to onboard Alex, how much of the pre-programmed design we see here do we pick up? So we have designed Alex as a product, but the mobile coach platform allows you to use any chatbot that we have the IP rights to, which we do with Alex since we designed Alex, and customize it. You can create your own instance. You can take it exactly how we've built it, or you can customize it. You can customize the name, really any of the logic. You could say, hey, we don't want 6 months. In fact, we don't really want any time frame. We like the idea of choosing a goal and having weekly milestones, and let's get rid of the 6 months. All that type of customization, of course, is available because you're really authoring the logic behind your chatbot using our platform. It's a great question, Amy. Thanks for asking that. Trent asks, if using in a highly regulated industry like pharmaceuticals, do you have any ways, idea to get chat scripts and AI responses pre-approved? So we do have a handful of projects right now with pharmaceutical companies where they actually have compliance pre-approve every message that a chatbot might send. If that is a firm requirement under regulatory purview, then we would suggest not using AI and just using a pure rules-based sensibility, and that's what we're doing for some of these other pharmaceutical-based projects. Because with a rules-based sensibility, you can guarantee exactly what the chatbot's going to say and when. For an AI engine, you can't guarantee it. You can get pretty close, but there's no guarantee because it's dynamic. All the copy is dynamically generated. I do anticipate regulators eventually understanding. Maybe there'll be like a process to pre-approve prompt design, but that's currently not available, and so that would be something to try to troubleshoot around to figure out what the right approach would be for pharmaceuticals. Great question, Trent. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, we're going to talk about what's next. More personalization. Emma, what does this mean? How's Alex going to be more personalized?
So hopefully this will hit on some of the things we've already talked about, but like the ability to customize when you're getting your reminders, the ability to go in and change your weekly goal milestones, the ability to maybe even get a different personality out of the chatbot if that different personality would be more motivating to you. Just in general, the ability for the user to have a lot more control over how the chatbot interacts with them. Oh, I totally jumped your bullet points. Yeah.
In fact, I'll do these next two because
okay,
they're all kind of related.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of my big goals for Alex is to find a way for it to become even more collaborative and conversational with the user, so that it can really push the user to like generate really good goals and all of the kind of interim action items that would actually help someone meet that goal. And I think that Alex is pretty good at doing that now, but I think he could be even better with more user collaboration.
Yeah, great. There is a feature that I'm pretty excited about that we're working on, and that is something called a mentor track. And what I mean by this is that sometimes when we, especially in an organization, we have other people vested in our personal goals. Like it could be a literal mentor, or it could be a supervisor, or it could be a department head, or whatever it might be. And so imagine that you are working with Alex, but then there's a trusted mentor that you have, another human being that Alex could also coach to help that person help me be successful. So Alex is learning a lot about how I'm doing with my particular goal. So you can imagine a mentor being informed, like, hey, you're Vince's mentor. He's really knocked it out of the park the last 2 weeks with his weekly goals. Here's a little bit of what I'm learning as I'm coaching Vince. Take some time to give him a shout out. Or conversely, hey, Vince seems to be struggling with this or that. This might be a good time for scheduling a chat. And so to me, it doesn't have to be so binary where, oh, I've got this AI chatbot, or I've got as a coach, or I've got a executive coach working with me. You can actually put a team together to help me be successful, and then have that chatbot keep everybody informed and help people optimize their own role. And I think there's a lot of really interesting possibilities with that type of functionality. So that's something that we've got a little bit of experience already in, like some onboarding, new hire onboarding use cases. But I think that there's some really nice applicability to that dynamic with personal development coaching too. And of course, this is, some of what I just said might seem a little big brother-ish or creepy, and that's not the intent at all. It would be all transparent. It'd be all done with approval. So for example, I could choose my mentor and ask someone, hey, will you be my mentor? I've got this chatbot that will keep you informed about how I'm doing, and I give you full permission to have Alex tell you how I'm doing, so we can work as a team. So that's really the intent of this type of feature. So if you have ideas or features for Alex that you think could be compelling for you, or for people that you care about, or people under your purview, please let us know. We'd love to get some feedback. And again, you can contact Emma or me. In fact, let me go all the way back to the beginning, and you can see our contact information. Let me actually exit full screen and do that quicker. Here we go. And we are really excited about the possibilities of Alex, and we're grateful for all of those of you, some of you that have already tested Alex and given us some feedback. Thank you. Continue to do so. Those of you that are interested in deploying something like Alex, or Alex itself, for your field, for your audience, please let us know. We'd love to support all your people and their goals. So thank you very much for joining the webinar. Hopefully this was interesting to you, and there's a lot of, I think, interesting potential and real value today of what Alex is building, so giving us. So thank you very much. And again, reach out to us with any questions, suggestions, or ideas. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.